Welcome to this series where I talk about the big taboo, sex. As you know, many young people live together these days to gauge whether they are a match for marriage. And of course, many of them have sex before marriage as well. So the big question that we're going to ask and answer today is, how do I know whether my partner will fulfill me? I want to read you two verses from Colossians 2, verse 9 to 10 from the Passion Translation. For Jesus is the complete fullness of deity living in human form, and our own completeness is now found in him. We are completely filled with God as Christ's fullness overflows within us. So before we can start speaking about anybody fulfilling anybody, we need to understand that our completeness is found in Christ alone. Any lack that we have is perfected in him. And as we walk out our relationship with Jesus, those things that we lack become less, or in reality is made perfect in him. When we therefore choose a partner, we do not look for someone who can fulfill us. We look for someone who has the same direction as us in life, and of course that we love. Sometimes you get people that have a prophetic word over their life to marry someone, but there's no love for each other. When we therefore get married, we trust that the other person will fulfill us. The word says the just shall live by faith. So we live by faith in God that we have the right partner and that we choose the right one that will bring that fulfillment in our marriage to us. This is the same for sex. When we trust God that our partner will fulfill us sexually, it will be the realities of our life. But when we look at the world, there's many lies out there. Like, to be frank, size counts. I'm sure it can make a difference if sex was only a physical, mechanical exercise. But as we've talked before, sex is an intimate experience where two people connect spiritually, emotionally, and on a physical level. In this light, we do not need to test drive sex or marriage before the time. We also do not need extracurricular activities like a third person or pornography. The world, it's quite hectic out there, and many people try different things to fulfill them sexually. But when we live in Christ, we ultimately trust him. We live a life of faith. We also understand that when we get married, that the main function is not that we become fulfilled sexually. Our focus is to lay down our life for our spouse so that we can meet them emotionally, spiritually, and on a physical level. Our focus is their well-being instead of ourselves. Don't get me wrong. I know that this can be harder for some people than others. If you look at extracurricular activities, if I can call it like that, the temptation is greater for some people than for others, even if they are Christians already. But the first thing that we need to understand that we are forgiven. We are forgiven for our past, but we are also forgiven for not trusting Jesus to fulfill us and for not trusting Jesus to help us in having a great sex life. We need to understand that forgiveness is the foundation for our marriage. More than our marriage, our identity, our whole being. So if we think of these things, it's not necessary to test drive sex or marriage before you actually get married. If you test drive marriage and sex, you lose the preciousness of it. There's a certain connection and trust that forms when a permanent commitment is made. So you're kind of on probation if you're not actually married yet. So when it comes to sex, I suppose there's many things that you can explore before getting married, but you will maybe grow on a physical level. But because you're on probation, the spiritual and the emotional needs are not met as they should be. I think my big question for you is, how long is long enough to test drive this thing? And when is probation time over and you get kicked out? This is not the way to go. When we wait for marriage to have sex, we have the safety in this marriage to give ourselves fully to our partner, and it will result in great sex. This trust relationship also gives us a foundation that when we have struggles in our sex lives, that we can sort it out. I understand that we all come from different backgrounds. Some have waited to have sex until we were married. Some of us have test drive this whole thing with our current spouse, and some of us have had many sexual partners before. The main thing that you need to understand is that you are forgiven. The thing that you can do is to lay down your life at the feet of Jesus. Let Him bring healing to your life. Let Him bring fulfillment to your life. When we do this in our relationship with Jesus, it gives us the authority, if I can say it like that, to do it in our relationship, in our marriage as well. It gives us the ability to lay down our lives for our partner. It takes the focus off ourselves, and it makes us think how we can rather fulfill or look after the emotional, spiritual, and physical needs of someone else. Sometimes we just need to start on the clean slate. You know, when you became born again, Jesus just did that for you. He gave you a brand new start. Whether you've been living for 3 years, 10 years, or 20 years, it doesn't matter. Whether you have been married for 6 months, 3 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. Today, you can have a brand new start. Speak with your spouse. We've mentioned this before in a previous talk. It is a vulnerable place to be. But when we get the history out of the way, we can realize that it doesn't have to predict our future. Give this process time. It takes sometimes time to heal. Not just time, but time where we are given to Jesus. Time where we are yielded to the Spirit of God to do something new in our lives. And this is what I want for you today. You can be fulfilled in your marriage. You can be fulfilled in your sex relationship with your husband or your wife. But it starts not purely on a physical level. It starts with relationship and intimacy with Jesus, realizing that we are fulfilled in Him, and so that this can overflow to our partner. Thank you for watching this video. Share and like it. If you have any comments or questions, please send us an email. The email address is in the description box below. Next time, we're gonna speak about sex and your past.